You ever wonder what it takes to deadlift half a ton? It takes accountability. Today, we're breaking down the world's strongest man with our own strongman, Jon Andersen, here on Mornings in the Lab. Yes, it is the end of the weekly loop. You got Keith Bilous here, Mornings in the Lab. Yeah, we're here to celebrate the strongman himself, Jonny Andersen. But we're here to break it down with the world's strongest man. Yeah, Eddie Hall. But Eddie's not here. No, we got Jonny here today. We got our own big strongman, Jon Andersen here. Today we're breaking down a scientific approach to the world's strongest man. But before we get into it, this is Mornings in the Lab with Keith and Friends, where we keep it raw, we keep it real, we keep it unfiltered. And hey, listen, fair warning, this is an explicit show. So, Dan Rather, if you're easily offended, you know what to do. Yeah, I see you, Dan. I see you hanging out at 4 o'clock in the morning here, checking in on us. But for the rest of you, let's get on into it. And hey, I want to remind you all to like, subscribe, and share the channel with your friends. But here's the big question, guys. How does someone like Eddie Hall, yeah, that guy over there, one of the world's strongest men, lift a half a ton without falling apart? Half a ton. We're taking you inside a scientific study that breaks down his muscle and tendon structure, because there's a reason this guy's a beast. But here's the thing. Here's the thing about today's show. This is not just for the strongmen out there. Nope. Good time. We're talking about you too. We will talk today about how what we're going to learn today can change your training. We are going to talk about what you're aiming for, your personal best or just trying to stay fit. Today's discussion is all about strength and so forth. And don't forget, in hour 2, we've got the morning loop reloaded. Oh yeah. We've got something maybe a little bit out of left field. We'll see. It's guys for your men out there who are, you got the weekend coming up and you might do some partying and some drinking and some fun. And then you might want to have some fun and you just might go sideways. So you might want to stick around for that coming up in second hour of Morning Loop Reloaded. But hey, why don't we do this? Let's get the team on the screen here. Let's bring up my buddy C. Marty Fit. Let's bring up my buddy Jon Andersen. Let's bring up my buddy Kristina Flynn. What is going on there, teamers? What's going on today? How are you guys today?
What's up, man?
What's
going on?
Hey. So, do you guys see the energy in the back of the green room when this is the build-up? I have to jump. I'm just fucking jumping away.
I need to slow run.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
So I'm excited about today's show. We're talking strength. And, Marty, Kristina, when I saw this topic come across the desk this week, I was like, oh man, we got to talk strength, and we got to talk the world's strongest men. And then I said, wait, we got our own strong man here in the lab himself, which is Jonny Andersen, which we are going to lean into. But before we get any further, guys, we got Jonny here on the screen with his white shirt. Kristina's in black, and Marty's in Marty. What that is that mauve, purple, pink, or what is that today, brother?
It's pink, man. It's pink.
Yes,
hold up.
What it was. I like that.
Hold up. This is great. It's gray. I really changed it up today, y'all. Yeah. Not in black.
And this is actually not white. This, I think you'd call this teal.
Oh, teal. Oh, so we're getting color lessons this morning on Mornings in the Lab because old Uncle Keith got his sunglasses
Keith,
on.
You 0 for 3, Keith. Come on, man.
That's real.
Yeah, I think Keith is getting color. I think we got some colorblind in the house here.
Yeah, what's going on, man?
And of course, Marty's got his red good old Beats headphones on. But hey, listen, before we get into the fun of our 2-hour show today, I want to slow things down and pause. On behalf of myself, Kristina, Marty, and all of Business Athlete Nation, I just want to pause and recognize our good friend, our brother, Jonny Andersen, lost his father yesterday, Pete. And I just want to take a moment to address Jonny and say, my heart, my prayers go out to you and your family. And perhaps we could take a quick moment to reflect on Pete here, Jon, this morning.
Yeah, of course, we all go through, losses, especially emotional ones in family. And I think one of the things that I really try to remember, and I try to kind of help people see, is that, usually the person that passes away, I shouldn't say usually, the person that passes away doesn't want the people he or she loves, you know, to go into some tailspin and have their life get turned upside down because they're passing. You know, the way I look at it is you keep doing what you're doing. You live your life a little harder, a little fuller for that person. You do it in their honor. You don't use it as a reason to come off track. Use it as a reason to go deeper into your track, deeper into what your life's work's about. You know, and for many of you guys, this might be the reason that you say, you know what, life is too short. I'm going to start that side hustle. I'm going to start committing an hour or two on the side, and I'm going to find a way to do what I want to do. Funny enough, yesterday, before I found out what was the lifestyle tip, don't let a good tragedy go to waste. Well, yeah. I'm here and I'm living those words, you know? Yeah. So when someone passes, in their honor, get up, dust yourself off. They know you love them. Move forward and live your best life in their honor. Don't use it as an excuse to fall into, you know, depression, or, you know, that person that loves you is sitting there looking, going, God damn, I don't want him falling off track. I don't want her in depression. I don't want, you know, the one I love drinking because I died. So remember that. Do more, do better, be positive in their honor.
Yeah. Well said, Johnny. It's
if people can do that, then we can kind of flip the script on have to be one of those things that turns our life upside down.
Yeah, it's you know, I appreciate, John, you making the time for, you know, obviously to hang out with us this morning. And you hear the funny thing is, Marty, Kristina, not the funny thing. The awareness thing, I knew John was going to be here today. You know, John shared this news with me yesterday afternoon, and I had some words for Pete and thought about it. And I didn't even ask John, Kristina, Marty, if he was going to be here today. I knew he was. I know John's attitude. I know John's philosophy, and I have a lot of love for that. And I think we all can take a lot of teaching from today's moment. We all deal with grief in our own ways, and some of you might be thinking, wow, John's got no empathy for his father. No, he does. He's looking at it differently, and John's choosing to celebrate his father. He's looking to celebrate John's future through the eyes of, I think I'm speaking properly, Johnny, you're looking to honor your future of your life reflecting upon your father, because he would not want you sitting back in misery and sadness. So he's like, Johnny, you got to go on, man. And I know it's hard for all of us that are still surviving, but I think that's really the message John wants to offer all of us today, which is hope for our own self, our own mirror in a time of difficulty. John?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, he was the one who got me my first weight set. I was 11 years old. You know, little ones where it was sand inside of a little plastic disc. You know, so if you dropped it, you know, your shit was falling apart. You know, and he was the one who kind of got me into it. Now you see, I'm a little red in the face. Yeah. So what I do, I get up and I knocked out 500 bodyweight squats. Like, okay, here we go. I know you're watching. I know this is what you got me started in. So let's burn up some legs. So you can see I nice and I didn't realize I was quite as rosy as I was until I got on here.
You know, I just got a full body of chicken skin, Marty, Kristina, when he said that. Marty, like, just this
500?
What does that mean?
Well, I got goosebumps.
That's a piece of cake. Okay. That's a down payment, 500. You know, I didn't have much time here, you know, because normally that would be 1,000.
Yeah. I know. Jesus, Morphe. I don't necessarily. I'm not. So it's to me, it's not so much the goosebumps, Marty, Kristina, because of the 500. It's the goosebumps for Johnny having that the honor of, you know what? I know my old man's watching, in the honor of that plastic weight set. It was probably Joe Weider weight set, wasn't it, Johnny?
You know, back in those days, I didn't even know what Joe Weider was, but you're probably correct.
Yeah, it was probably a Joe. For those of you that don't know, it's the old guy that started bodybuilding for Keith and Johnny, Joe Weider. I got goosebumps just knowing that Johnny's like doing his 500 squats and thinking of dad and so forth. And again, we joke here on the show, you know, some people don't even want to do 1 or 2 squats. Well, Johnny's doing his 500 in honoring of his late passing father. So the moral of the story, nation, there's really no excuse. There's never an excuse to not do anything, even in times of difficulty. So,
brother, as you say that, I just got a really, really interesting play on words. We need to adapt the word excuse. So we find excuses to do better, excuses to excel, excuses to become better. We need to flip that word around and make it not a bad word.
I like that. And you know what? Actually, I'm glad you brought this up. So the whole Morning Loop Nation has gone completely sideways on, which is great. Jimmy, I had a whole different thing going on, but we'll put that to reload it here because this is important. Marty said something. So two things, Johnny. I love that. Kristina, we got to work on flipping excuses because we always think of excuses as a negative, right? Which is, hold on, let's flip it. Look at the excuse as the opportunity in it. But Marty, you said something yesterday, which I was reflecting during post-production. I was watching here in the gym when I sent you the text. And I haven't looked at labels ever in my life. I've hated labels my whole life until Christopher Martin said something yesterday, which really moved me. And you're like, no, man, labels are a good thing. We should celebrate them. Because when you label something, you celebrate its differences. You celebrate what's maybe good about it or bad about it. But what I took from your comment, Marty, was a label encourages conversation. A label encourages curiosity. And for a platform and a business being built around conversation and curiosity, I don't know how that is a bad thing. I spent my whole day thinking about that yesterday, going, "Wow, what a powerful, simple statement from the young punk on the board here, Andersen." It really moved me because I couldn't get my head away from it. Because let's not run away from labels. Let's run towards them and be curious and talk about them. Kristina, I'd like to hear your point of view on this.
I mean, my point of view. I think it's hard because labels can get a bad rap. But I think that we talk about, if you're not labeling me, then you're not acknowledging my differences.
Yeah.
Marty says. And if you're not acknowledging my differences, you're not being intentional about creating spaces for people like me. And if you create spaces for people like me and my differences, the statistics show we tend to create spaces for all people who have differences. So it's not just about me saying, I want about me. I want you to be intentional about thinking about me, because if you're intentional about thinking about me, you're going to do the same about Marty. You're going to do the same, Rich. It's a mindset.
Yes. Yeah. Marty, comment for you, brother, before we keep moving on the show here.
Yeah, definitely. I think labels get a bad rap just because people don't know how to go about using them. People try to use a label to I guess shut down someone else's opinion if it's different, instead of having a conversation. We're in an age now where you can't have conversations. They just shut it down. Well, I disagree with this. I think we should do this, X, Y, Z. And, they'll label you in a negative way. But I think labels are great, and I think we should have more conversations.
Yeah, it's like I said, it really enlightened me. Johnny?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think that the challenge with the label is that people use them when it only benefits. They only use them if it benefits them.
Yeah, it's bullet.
And I think that's the problem with the label.
Yes.
People will use it to step forward, or people use it to hide.
Yes.
And I think you can't have both sides of the fence.
Yes.
So you're going to use a label to kick ass, or are you going to use a label to curl up and be a bitch? And if use labels to curl up and be a bitch, either stop using them or get to the other side of the fence.
Yeah,
because it's somebody with your label kicking ass, more than likely. So
yes.
What's that, Marty?
Yeah, I said there's someone with your label kicking ass, more than likely. So I agree with you, Johnny.
Yeah, absolutely, brother.
All right, you're hanging out with Keith, Johnny, Kristina Flynn, and C. Marty Fit here, Mornings in the Lab, the Morning Loop, the only morning show to help you guys get going here at 8 o'clock Eastern time, Monday to Friday. And so we have this show here that happens with our goal to help you guys achieve those biggest goals here. So whether it's fitness, business, or personal growth, it's time to own up. Drop your progress in the comments. Good time. Are you crushing it? Did you stumble this week? I know you've been hitting it every single day. Good time. So I appreciate you joining us here in the comments. Enzo, I see you there as well in the comments as well. And YB, I promise I'm not going to flash you today. I'm going to keep the shirt on here, YB. So I like the ask, but no, I'm keeping the shirt on today. But hey, and Enzo, Johnny, Enzo's got a quick question for you. I have a question. Is Google always right? It says you are 170 centimeters tall and 140 kilograms. We'll get to that here in a few moments, Johnny. You can digest that. I don't know if Johnny can do
it says 183.
183 centimeters. So, yeah. So
how'd you get 177 out of that?
That's a good question, actually. Yes.
I missed what he said, but I want to hear it.
Because
that was crazy.
It never looked like so 183 looks nothing like 177, but according to Keith, 177. All right.
Yo.
You guys get out of here. I got some work I got to do here at this point in the show. Marty, I'm not good at math this morning. All right. Three things happen. They do. Three things happen when you choose kindness over judgment. It's true. Because we've all been there. I know you have been there. I've been there. Someone makes a mistake or we disagree with you, and the easy choice is to judge. Or just like we talked about, the easy choice is to label. Well, is there a better move? There is a better move. You know what that better move is to choose kindness. Here's why. Problems get solved faster. Judgment slows things down. It leads to blame, frustration, and wasted energy. But kindness, well, yeah, it just skips all that and focuses on the immediate solutions. It's called kindness for a reason. You get clarity through empathy. Kindness helps you understand the actual issue. Instead of assuming, you ask, well, why? Maybe that person is burned out. Maybe they're not lazy. Maybe they're just burned out. With empathy, you make smarter decisions. With empathy, you become curious. With empathy, you build a culture of growth. Listen, judgment kills improvement. People fear mistakes. They hide failures and they avoid risks. Kindness, it opens the door for learning, growth, and that honest feedback that we crave. Here's the bottom line, nation. Kindness, oh yeah. Kindness trumps judgment. Always. So, as you start your Friday, as you lean into the loop of the weekend, remember, kindness before judgment. You're always going to win. That's your accountability check-in here this morning on Mornings in the Lab with Keith and Friends. All right, let's bring up the rest of the crew here. Bring up Marty. Going to bring up John here in a quick second. Our resident strongman himself, Jon Andersen here. Let's see here. So let's keep going with this here. So we're going to jump into center stage where we take a deeper dive. Jimmy, we can swap the center stage banner up there as well. But we got fit presenter coming. Keith's literally wearing rose-colored glasses. Yeah, it's true. 100%. Can't tell 177 or 183. Yeah, just, the eyes are all messed up this morning. But, okay, so we're going to jump into the center stage here. We take a deeper dive into our main topic of the day, and I am pleased that we have our own resident strongman in the house to talk about it. Today we're breaking down Eddie Hall, the world's former strongest man and the first person, John, Marty, to deadlift 500 kilograms. Now, before we get into the science behind his body and how he manages that insane weight, Jimmy, let's roll some video here and show a footage of Eddie in action here. Now, I have this YouTube clip here I want to put up here. Jimmy, you got the YouTube clip there, brother? I'm going to get it up here going here. We're going to run about a 30-second clip here just to set the stage for what Eddie does, so we can set the stage about the world's strongest man here. So let me get hold on a second here. There we go. Okay, we're gonna go present, share screen. Jimmy, I got it coming up here, brother. All right, let's go. Let's rock and roll here. Boom. And how do I play it? There we go. All right, let's check it out.
His life. See what he can manage. Well, he's straight up there. Bjornsson, though.
It is very hot. Very humid.
Eddie's the one on the left side of the screen.
Hall's ahead of Bjornsson.
This is a great performance from Hall. Look, he's up to
right here. He just approached the last stone. There he is.
Enormous circumference, this stone. My goodness.
This is amazing. Britain's Eddie Hall, 5 stones. Do we have a new king of the stones?
We certainly do. Bjornsson, though.
Right.
All right, so there's a clip on Eddie Hall there, and I wanted to put that on screen there. But Johnny, brother, you've been in the strongman world yourself, and you know firsthand the demands of lifting insane amounts of weight. Now, there's a recent study done about Eddie Hall's muscle structure, and it's fascinating. I want to break it down. So, Johnny, the study shows that Eddie's lower body muscles are almost twice the size of an average person's, Marty. From your experience, Johnny, how does that compare to what it takes to be competitive at the highest level in strongman competitions? And John, is it all about size, or are there other factors in play? Now, before you answer those questions, perhaps take a minute or two and set up a strongman competition. And what is it? How do you qualify and how do you win it before we go into these questions about Eddie? Jon Andersen.
So you got a little choppy, but I think you were asking about how you qualified to get to the higher stages of competition. Is that what you asked?
Yeah. So let's set the stage about strongman, Johnny, for the audience.
So basically, strongman is kind of an offspring of Highland Games. That's where they wear the kilts, and it became kind of a sport of its own. But ultimately, what you've got to do is you've got to first compete at a local competition. If you win your local competition, then you can go into either a regional or a national competition, depending on your country. And then you've got to place in the top of your country, then to go compete in the international stage. And then when you're competing in the international stage, then you got to do well enough there. So it's this ladder you got to climb. And I mean, for the most part, if you're not in the top 5 or 6 of your country, you're not even really on the international radar. Because, when you get to the upper level, everybody was a national champion or they placed in the top 3, but for the most part, it's a really competitive thing. I know, like for me, I won my first competition as local. I went to a national, won that. Then I went to turn pro, got my pro card, went to pro nationals, placed high enough to go international scene. And the jump between like local and national is big. The jump between national and international is quantum. You cannot explain. I mean, people think, "Oh man, I'm a pro now." Get ready to get your ass whooped for a while, because the dudes that are in this, it's no joke, man. And so a guy like Eddie, there's actually a documentary on him for those of you guys who want to see. Yeah. I mean, it's not just the training. It's the training is the easiest equation. Even though you see the training, go, holy shit, I don't know if I could do that. Most people can't. But the training pales in comparison compared to the eating that's got to go down, compared to the napping and the resting. Because, I mean, in that world, all you're trying to do is promote your body to get stronger in any way, shape, or form. In terms of, the eating, your purpose in life is to allow your body to do the things you got to do to let your body get stronger. And then a lot of the stuff that we're going to hear about in the study, I'm sure, like bone density and tendon strength, this comes from years and years of picking up really heavy shit. So if you look at our bones, right, under microscope, oh shit, did I lose you guys? They're very porous. And so as you start to train, did you guys lose me?
No, we got you here, brother. Keep going, pal. We got you.
Okay, perfect. That's the damn hotel Wi-Fi. Anyway, but if you look at the bone, it's very porous. So lots of little holes, right? That's just the way a bone is. When you're lifting heavy shit as a regular part of your existence for a lengthy period of time, that bone gets really dense. All those little holes start filling in. It's the body's mechanism to support all that heavy weight. Then you go to the tendons, the same thing. Tendons actually get stronger, they get thicker. And so remember we've talked about how adaptable the body is. Yes. Well, when you're putting 1,000 pounds on your back and you're walking with that for 80 feet, your body's going, holy shit, that just about broke my femur. So I better make those bones a little bit more dense. And holy shit, my knees just about exploded. My tendons almost popped. So I guess I better start making these tendons a little stronger. So strongman training is very extreme. And when you put the body in extreme conditions, it will adapt very extremely. And that's basically a severe adaptation. That's what strongman is.
That's unbelievable. So Marty, Johnny, the study highlights these stabilizer muscles. And Johnny, maybe you can help describe this to our audience, but the study highlights these stabilizer muscles referred to as guy rope muscles. You know those, Johnny? The guy rope muscles, they are 2.5 to 3 times larger in Eddie than an average person. Now, you're a big dude. How important are these stabilizers in terms of injury prevention and overall performance? And Johnny, where do those guy rope muscles, where are they in our legs, Johnny?
Well, think of it like this. You know me, I like to simplify. Yes. So when we train in the gym, we have all these very straight movements, back and forth, left and right. Well, there's nothing straight, or everything in strongman is different angles. And like when you're in the video, we saw the guys picking up Atlas stones. Well, they're bent over, their backs are round, which would be the wrong way to deadlift.
Yeah,
but you're forced to do it that way to pick that thing up. And you're so basically in like when I was in my strongman career, my back had never been so strong because I was picking up 350, 375 pound stones like you saw, but I had to bend over, round my back over like a humping dog, right? You see, the round back when they're humping away. That's what your back looks like. You hook onto that stone and you got to pull it up in your lap. So you're putting your back in an extremely vulnerable spot.
Jesus. And
then you got to pick up that heavy weight. So what I'm getting at, these muscles that don't get worked in these very, right angled exercises are getting worked in strongman. And so think of it like this. You're basically muscles that would never really get worked are getting not only built, but the tendons, everything about them is getting stronger. It's the body's, again, it's going back to the body's adapting to all the weird shit that's happening to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Marty, question for Jonny on this whole thing.
Yeah. How do you manage the traveling and getting your body right? If you're doing like international training, you travel out the country or something, you got a long flight. How do you manage that and getting your body prepared for competition? Because I know in basketball, them long bus rides and long flights are crazy.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. In the strongman world, we don't, there's no, if you have excuses in the strongman world, you're not making it, period. End of story. If you want to find a reason not to get that high on the ladder, you'll find many of them along the way. And so to answer your question, there are so many times where it just doesn't work out like you think it is. We were going to the Team World Championships. This is mid 2000s. It was all the way over the eastmost point of Ukraine, right on the border of Russia, little town called Sevastopol on the Black Sea.
Yeah.
It took us, oh my God, those of us coming from California, it took us 40 hours to get there because it was like plane to plane, all these little connections. And it was a brutal trip to get there. So we get there, right? Which it's probably 5 o'clock. We get there, the hotel's probably 5 o'clock. We eat dinner. As soon as, we find out what we go to the sheet, which tells us what's happening tomorrow. Oh goodness, the American group's up first. And the Ukrainian team and some of the teams that are local, they're a blast, which means they get to rest all day. We've been traveling all day. But here's the thing, especially because we're Americans. If we start saying a word, we're just the pussy Americans. You know what I mean? Yep. So it's really, you just got to realize if this is the world that you want to be in, you got to shut up, work hard, and find a way to get the job done. So this was actually, for me personally, this was like massive in helping me understand that I don't have to be in perfect conditions to perform at the highest level. Sometimes giving me non-perfect conditions will make me perform better. I mean, my first and only international win as a pro strongman, which was the North American Championships, I showed up in Canada and I had the flu. I was just getting over the flu. So I was far from perfect conditions. I basically stayed in my hotel room, missed the meetings and everything. I was wiped out. One of my teammates came and got me when it was time to go. I went into the arena and I was too sick to worry. So when it was my turn, I just went out there and performed, and I won the competition. So you start to realize that, literally you start to realize no matter what's in front of you, you're still going to get the job done. And I got to tell you, that thought process right there of what's ever in front of you, you're going to get the job done. That shit is powerful.
No kidding.
You can adapt that. Like, hey, I don't give a shit. Yeah, I was on a plane all day yesterday, but I'll still get up and kick ass. Let's go.
Yeah, that's the power of
take all that shit, move it out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the power of no excuses.
Answer your question, Marty.
Go ahead, Jonny.
Yes, 100%. 100%. So that to answer your question, Marty, you just know that things aren't going to be perfect, and you realize it's okay, and it doesn't matter that it's not perfect. You're still going to get the job done, And it really frees your mind, because at that point you've stuck a fucking sock in that voice is telling you that that you're not going to do well because you didn't sleep well or you had a long flight. Get the fuck out of here. I'm gonna fucking get in the starting blocks. I'm gonna come out like a fucking rape tape. I'm gonna get the job done. So shut the fuck up. That's what I'm telling my mind.
We're talking no excuses. We're talking and breaking down the world's strongest man, Eddie Hall, with our own Jon Andersen here, one of the world's strongest men. But this time we're going to get to going to give you guys some fitness advice to become a strong man. And we're going to do that with our guy, our other resident strong man, which is Christopher Martin. Marty, you ready to rock and roll, brother? Let's do it.
Yeah, man.
Let's do it.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. Let's do it. I just wanted to let John know that's the Jon Andersen philosophy right there. That story he just told. That's why I asked that question. I got the perfect answer. But anyway, we got the fitness tip for today, all right? So you want to get fit and stay fit, all right? It's a lot simpler than you think, but you got to have the right mindset. It's not about the perfect program or the quick fix or the perfect diet and all that other bullshit people come up with, all right? You got to create the right habits, and this has to just become a natural part of your life. Just like you wake up and brush your teeth every day, whether you feel like it or not, whether you're on vacation, whether you're getting ready for work, you're going to brush your teeth. That's how working out has to be. You're going to get up and get your ass to the gym or outside or to the basement, to the home gym, to the class, whatever it is that you do, you're going to get there. You have to think about fitness the same way you think about brushing your teeth. So you got to prioritize daily movement, focus on your nutrition like you focus on your hygiene, sleep and recovery are non-negotiables. Me and Johnny talk about it all the time. Stop trying to be perfect. You're going to mess up sometimes, and it's okay. But you got to be consistent over time, and that's what's going to keep you over the game. That's going to get you to the results, even if you mess up, because you're not going to be perfect. Don't strive for perfection. Strive for consistency. So even when life gets crazy, don't stress the missed workout or the cheat meal. Keep moving forward. Stay the course. Fitness will become who you are and not just what you do. That's the fitness tip for today.
Oh, yeah. Fitness will be who you are, not what you do. I like that, Mark. That's a good statement for everybody to consider here this morning as they're getting their day started with Mornings in the Lab with Keith and Friends here. The only morning show to help you guys get your day started. I invite you to like the channel, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends. We are just building this airplane and we're making it into a rocket ship. And hey, good morning, Shinku. Shinku, good to see you here this morning. Good to see you, Shelly Spence. And today, and good to see you here, of course, Enzo. And yeah, we're going to talk, we got Jory Jansen coming up here in about 12 minutes, and we're going to get into eating and so forth, Jory and protein and so forth as she joins the show here in about 12 minutes or so. But we're going to keep breaking down Eddie Hall. Johnny, the study mentions that Eddie's tendons, particularly the ones connected to his quadriceps, were only about 30% larger compared to an average person, despite the massive size of his muscles. With such disproportionate growth between tendons and muscles, Johnny, how do athletes like Eddie and even yourself manage injury risk when pushing the body to its limits? And I think about, your back and how we're taught to lift heavy things. How do you teach yourself in this situation? And how does Eddie teach himself not to be injured? John.
That's a good question, because when it comes down to it, in a sport like that, it's extreme. And
yes.
You're there. If you think you're going to enter a sport like that and not get injured, think twice. So you have to go in there understanding that this is part of the equation. There's very few guys at the top that have not had some sort of a pretty bad injury. Whether it's surgery based, whether it needs surgery is a different question. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of, you look at what you got to do in that sport, and it's kind of like the way I looked at it, and I'm sure the other guys had their own way to look at it. It's like, okay, I know what I'm getting into. So it's kind of like if I go outside when it's pouring rain, I mean, I get fucking butt hurt because I got wet. Hell no. That's just, you know what you're doing. So you do your best not to get injured, of course. But, when it comes down to it, like, here's a common injury. Happened to me multiple times. Happens to a lot of guys on a heavy deadlift. Yeah. Like you literally, you tear your lat out of your armpit. Your lat tears off, and I've had both of my lats tear off, not completely, one of my buddies actually had his whole lat completely disconnect and just ball up in his waistline.
Because you're pulling so much strength from your so explain that, John. Is it because you're pulling so much? Explain that to me. Like you're pulling so much weight from your back, your lats are working. What are you saying?
Here's the deal. Here's the deal. When you're doing something like this, body position is absolutely key. And if you don't stay in the right positions, you'll have, like, perfect example on that deadlift when I was doing it, and like other guys, you get pulled a little bit forward, which then puts a lot of pressure on those lat insertions and your lower back. Well, in my case, my lower back held up better than my lats. So when you're lifting really, really heavy and you're breaking records, especially like in Eddie's case, world records, you're doing your best to stay in proper form. But proper form in many cases is not part of a world record. You just have to struggle through getting out of position because it's new territory. And so you just got to realize this is like perfect. Funny enough, Eddie actually did that twice. He did it the first time, but he got to the top and he didn't hold it long enough. It ripped out of his hands. It's so heavy. So that was the first time he did it. And the second time he did it, he actually held it. And as he was going down, you got to find the footage. It's pretty crazy. As he's going down, he lets the bar down, gentle, because he wanted to make sure he got his world record. Goes out on the way down and literally tips over the bar, and he's sleeping, holding onto the bar for a second. And obviously his crew runs out and picks him up, and he wakes up. But you said he lost his eyesight at the top. Things were going dark. I mean, that's 1,100 pounds. That's pretty heavy shit. So, but think of it like this. There's a few guys, Eddie being one of them. He pioneered a new path, much like Michael Jordan pioneered a new path.
Yeah.
And so when you're pioneering a new path, weird shit's going to happen. But the pioneer or the leader, that's why they're leaders, because they're willing to do the shit that most people won't do. And in a case like Eddie's, he was willing to do the shit, but he also had some, genetic gifts, and to do what he did, there's got to be a lot of things in line. He was a really, really his posterior chain. He was known for his posterior chain, which is all the muscles for the deadlift.
Yes.
And his monster overhead presser. So he's arguably like one of the strongest men ever on the planet, because at one point he held, I believe at one point he held the record for overhead press and for deadlift, which means the guy that can pick the most shit off the ground.
Yes.
And the guy that can put the most shit over his head. That's
incredible.
So, and the cool thing about Eddie is he is just a character, man. I mean, people love him because he's full of energy. He's really clever. So he's just one of those guys that, because a sport like strongman, of course, it's kind of cultish, and everybody wants the sport to grow. That's what we all want. And a guy like Eddie came along, and like because he's from the UK. I mean, he was boom. I mean, they're big over there in terms of strongman. He was on McDonald's commercials and all sorts of shit. So it was really, really good for the growth of the sport, because he's that guy that could put the camera on and he's going to entertain people. And so these smaller sports need guys like that to bring more eyeballs to it. And Eddie did a phenomenal job of that.
Yeah. Hey, Johnny, we've talked before. You and Marty have talked in the past on the show, especially in the gym segment. In the gym coming up in a half an hour, actually. John and Marty, the only place you're going to get these two guys in the gym. We've talked about eccentric training before. John, what does eccentric training look like for somebody who's focusing on tendon health? Because we know with strength, you got muscles and you got tendons, and Eddie has stronger tendons than most. Are there particular exercises that somebody like yourself or Marty or an athlete would be doing that would focus as much on our tendon health more so than our muscle strength, Johnny? Like, what kind of exercises would you be doing for that?
Well, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that, because that's what it's the type of question most people would ask. And what you got to understand is this. Bone density, tendon strength, and even growing world-class strength. There's not, of course, there's exercises, but you're doing complete training for that, for your focus. What people are missing to develop the tendon strength, to develop the bone density, to develop the world-class strength, you need decades of doing this shit without missing. That's the difference. So Don't think, oh, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to work on my tendon strength. Well, if you've been training hard for 25 years, guess what? You're already doing a good job of that, because the tendons are going to adapt. Now, keep in mind, if you're not lifting heavy, they have no reason to adapt. So if you're putting them in a load, so again, your body thinks, holy shit, man, he picked up some heavy stuff today. I better make those tendons stronger so they don't rip off the bone. So ligaments,
Yes,
rip off the bone. I better make these tendons stronger so they don't separate from the muscle. And it's all about putting your body in a position where it's forced to adapt. Then everything, heavy load, bone density, tendon strength, ligament strength, muscle strength, the whole kit and caboodle. But it's putting your body under a load for a lengthy period of time. None of this shit happens in a few months or even a few years. Once you're a few years deep, you got a small down payment on what you're looking for.
yeah.
It's the time.
Marty, as you hear Jon talking, I know you're an athlete. You've been an athlete your whole life. You've been in the gym your whole life too. You train people. When you're hearing Jon talk about tendon strength and everything other than the muscles, when you start hearing some of the things that Eddie does and Jon does it not just kind of overwhelm your thought process? And you kind of like a holy, like, do you think about some of these things when you're training customers, Jonny or Marty, even just yourself?
I mean, the philosophy is the same. It's
Yes.
just a different sport. So whether I'm training, the osteoporosis man or woman, whether I'm training the athlete, who plays overseas basketball, it doesn't matter. The philosophy is still the same. It's consistency, and you get better over time, right? And Jon talked about the tendons, and it's just like it's a result of putting the work in. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, whether you're going to the NFL, NBA, no matter what it is. And then I see, if you look down here on the comments, Kencho, he said, I started gym at 42. I'm 44 now. What are my realistic chances at going on the stage to compete naturally? And, I'm going to let Jon answer that too. But it's the same thing. It's consistency. You can get consistent at 42 and be on the stage at 44 or, 46 whenever you decide to. The same philosophy Jon was just talking about, that applies to getting on stage for bodybuilding competition as well. My mom did a bodybuilding competition at 51 or 52. Her first and only one.
Your mom?
Yeah, my mom did.
That's
but I
awesome.
see, but I mean, at my gym, that's normal. People do it at 50, people do it at 60. It is what it is. So everything Jon talks about when it comes to fitness, bodybuilding, sports, or whether just being general population fitness, all of this applies. All that habit stacking, it all adds up together, and it's all about your consistency.
Yeah. Jonny.
Yeah, and whoever it was that asked the question, yeah, I can't tell you how many people at different ages I've brought to a stage or a platform to basically live out their dream. So
We got a break up there with Jonny, Marty. I think so.
I think so. Finally got a longer breakup with him.
We got a little bit of internet connection with Jonny. Johnny's joining us from California here this morning. Hey, listen here.
Yep.
Yeah, you're back. Good to get you back up there.
Sorry. So anyway, for those of you that are wondering, can you do it? Absolutely, you can. It's just be totally honest. If you're 40, 50, 60, 70, you just need to find a person, a coach that can teach you the path to get there for your specific situation and your age. People in the 40s and 50s that try to do this stuff with the knowledge that's bouncing around in the gym, you're gonna have some trouble.
Hey, you're hanging out with Keith, Jon, Marty, producer Kristina Flynn. We're talking how to be strong like Eddie Hall. We're breaking down the science of Eddie Hall. We're talking about muscle strength, tendon strength, recovery, and so forth. And Jonny, are we confident with the internet connection to the lifestyle tip today? I think we are, right? Shall we do it? Let's get her done.
It looks good right now. Let's go, baby.
Let's do it. So, Kencho, there's your question answered. The reality is, Kencho, yes, you can do it. Put the work in, put the time in, put the work, put the time, and you can get after it and achieve those big ass dreams.
And get a good coach too.
Get a good coach too. And I think we know a couple on the show here. You're looking at two just next to me here, Marty and Jon, that can help you out. And Marty, dude, we got to bring Mom on the show, man. She's stepping on stage. Hey, how old is Mom when she's stepping on stage? That is freaking awesome, brother.
Yeah, I mean, that was a few years ago, but my mom is really fit. and she wasn't always fit. So
Yeah. That's awesome. That's exceptional stuff. Okay, cool. All right, let's do this. Let's do the lifestyle tip with Jonny Andersen, and then we're going to come back with I think George Jansen's joining us here in a few moments. We're going to talk about protein types, vegan protein, natural meat protein. Maybe we'll get into a little bit about what Eddie eats and so forth, because I'm sure the guy's got to eat a lot of protein, and I'm not sure if vegan protein is what's going to help him achieve some of those big goals. But Jonny, let's get the lifestyle tip. Let's rock and roll with that, and then we'll bring Jonny to talk food in the nutrition protein break coming up in a second. Jonny, you're up, brother, and we're going to do this, and there we go. That's the sound effects. Marty, get out of here, brother. Me too.
Come on, baby. All right. Here's the deal. We have lots of things going around us in our busy lives. But you got to remember, no matter what happens, the good, the bad, the ugly, there's always a silver lining, even if something really, really is kicking your ass. So don't just believe or think that something lands in your lap that's stressing you out, that's, hurting your heart, whatever it is. Don't think that is a bad thing. There is always a silver lining. So what I want you to think about is, if something goes in your favor, good. If something works against you, good. It gives you an opportunity to focus on something else. Weird example. If I get kicked in the nuts, and I'm kicked in the nuts so hard, I'm on my hands and knees, on my fours, on the ground. Once I catch my breath, I'm going to think, okay, I'm down here. I've got a vantage point to see something I couldn't see when I was standing tall and proud. So I'm looking around and I'm trying to find my silver lining. Just remember, whether you get kicked in the nuts, whether you get fired at work, whether you have a fight with your wife or girlfriend, always find the silver lining. Everything is always going to be good if you're using the perspectives of finding the good inside the bad. So remember, always find the silver lining. Rock and roll.
Always find the silver lining with Jon Andersen. It's very true. It's so easy for us as human beings to just flip to the negative, stay in the negative, and live in the negative. It's hard to move to the positive. It's hard to find the positive in a negative moment. But as Jon said, you can't have love without hate. You can't have yes without no. So when there's something bad happening, try to lean into the positivity of the moment. That's what we're leaning to today here with Jon Andersen's lifestyle moment. And right now we're bringing up Jory. We're bringing up Marty here in a second. And we're shaking. Jory, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good to see you. Good to see you. I'm awesome. We've been breaking down the science of the world's strongest man, Eddie Hall, and Jon was kicking off the conversation. Jimmy, if we can turn to the protein break on the banner here, Jonny was talking about the food that this guy must eat, Jory, right, to be the world's strongest man. And we know that we're eating a lot of protein to be the world's strongest man. Well, today, let's dive into, the topics of protein around this idea of plant-based, different types of protein, plant-based versus animal-based. And Jory, you and me, kid, we know Jon and Marty are big fans of animal protein. We know, Jory, that Jonny eats more meat than most of us probably can eat in a whole lifetime. But here's
he calls it flesh. He calls it
flesh, yes. But here's where things get interesting, and we've got some strong opinions and maybe a few surprises along the way. So, Jory, let's get into this question for you. Sorry, Marty. Sorry, Jonny. I'm going to throw Jory up here, and I'm going to stand next to her with my muscles and support her. Can plant-based protein actually be superior, or can it be as good as flesh? Jory Jansen.
So it's going to depend. And I know that's going to be like, oh, every dietitian, it depends.
No, as Kristina would say, it's not an or, it's an and. So good.
It is an and. So yes, it can be just as. I don't think it's superior. And so here's the evidence. And if you would have asked me even 5 years ago, I would have said, absolutely not. It's way too challenging. You can't do it. It has to be animal sources. But the evidence isn't showing that anymore. Now, is it easier? Is it more, it's
convenient?
It's definitely can be more convenient. The high quality proteins, it's easier in terms of animal sources. Yes. But what the evidence is now showing is that plant-based proteins can be just as effective. Here's the challenge, though. Because when you're like that big of a dude, you can't eat a ton of fiber and reach the calories that you need. The variety of nutrients your body needs to be like that. So to be a vegan and get there, it's not that it's impossible, it's really hard. Because if we think fat, fiber, protein, you feel fuller a lot longer. So if you're feeling fuller a lot longer, which is great if you're trying to lose weight, it's not awesome if you're trying to put on bulk. Right. So it depends on your goal. I've worked with vegan athletes and NHL athletes, and they're vegan, and it's challenging.
Yes.
But they can do it.
Yes. Shinko has a comment here which says, and this is a good one. Shinko says, I thought vegans were nutrient deficient. And John's a big fan. And John, we talk nutrients all the time here. So Shinko's like, I thought vegans were nutrient deficient. Support that or shoot down that myth or that truth, Jory.
Sure. So if you're not planned, whether you're vegan or not, you can be nutrient deficient. Right. So I've got athletes that have low serum ferritin. So it's your iron stores are low. And you're eating animal sources that are crazy high in bioavailable iron. So iron that's easily absorbed by the body. But then you'll have a vegan athlete where they do have to be careful of iron. They do need to eat more iron-containing foods that are plant-based to reach the same amount of iron that if you were eating animal sources.
Yes.
So if you could, incorporate a bit of a balance, so kind of like Kristina's so if you could have animal sources and also include plant-based sources, there are research, so it's not in terms of like building lean muscle mass, but there's research to show you're building and maintaining lean muscle mass and also helping with heart health. So those that combine both seem to be healthier long term. So what are you looking for your outcome to be? Is it to be like, big? Is it to be big and healthy? Is it to be healthy? So it really, what are your goals? But you can meet your protein requirements going vegan, but you may need to supplement depending on how bioavailable your B12 example foods are for your body. So you might need to supplement with vitamin B12, maybe iron as well. But other than that, you can calcium, everything else. Those things can be met easily through a vegan diet.
Interesting. So let's get into this one then. So John and Marty, we have been raised, especially John and I, the old dudes here, that
me too.
You too, Marty, because you're raised by the same guys that were teaching us. So we taught you the same thing. Jory, one of the big myths floating around is that people always say that plant-based proteins are incomplete and don't give you the full spectrum of amino acids. Johnny talks about aminos all the time here in the lab. That animal protein does. But here's the twist. Some nutritionists, maybe you don't, argue that as long as you're eating a variety of plant-based foods throughout the day, you still get all the amino acids that you need. Jory, is that true or not true?
It's true. It's variety.
Uh-oh.
Absolutely. If you are if you're only eating, well, actually tofu is kind of a nice one anyway, soybean. And man, you're not going to get breasts from eating soy. That has been debunked. You can find tons of research on that. You're not getting boobs. I promise.
Thank you. I needed to know that.
Okay. Yeah. There's research on that, so don't be scared. But that's one that has a higher B12 content, which isn't typically in plant-based proteins. But yeah, the key is variety. So if you start mixing, and even when you start mixing some of your whole grains with the plant-based protein, that's increasing the amino acid profile. So as long as you're being purposeful, you're planning, you eat variety. Some people like to eat like the same thing all the time. They're chicken and broccoli, right? You're going to eventually not meet certain nutrient requirements. So you can get all the amino acids. You just have to be mindful of the variety. As children, they need to more often than not combine them at the same meal. With adults, you don't necessarily have to combine them, the variety of the meal, but throughout your day, it's important to get those amino acids. Yeah.
So I'm going to set Johnny up here. So what we like to do here in the lab is have different points of view, different points of view, different opinions, different experiences. And what I like about having John in the lab is John has lived a life of experiences, perhaps not through scientific tests, but actually through experience. And I've gotten to know John over the last number of months, and he shares his different experiences. So I'd love to hear John's point of view based on human experiences, not so much through scientific studies. Jonny, what's your thought on what we just asked the question of Jory? I saw you smile and lean into the camera, brother.
Yeah, well, first I think my internet's good right now, so I can get a few sentences out here. So I would say this. Any nutritionist that tells an athlete that's trying to go high level in something like a strength sport, oh yes, you can do it. You've just got to thread all this shit together to make sure that nutritionist clearly has never tried to do it, because that shit does not work. There's nobody in the world class level that's not chewing down a load of flesh. Period. End of story. And can you get enough? There we go. I'm back. So could you improve? Absolutely. But could you improve at a rate big enough to get to an international stage in a strength sport, eating plants? We've yet to see it.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the key point here, right? Is that it will be interesting for us to get to a point where we are seeing maybe an Eddie Hall or somebody like a Jon Andersen, Eddie Hall on the world class stage, who has lived, who's gained those experiences through alternative diets and what we've traditionally leaned into, Jory, right? So, if we look at a guy like Eddie and so forth, mostly probably generally driven by flesh, right? And I guess to John's point, we haven't seen on the international stage yet somebody who's been generally fueled by some of the alternative sources that science is now putting on the table and saying this works. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, Jory, but I think perhaps time needs to catch up, where you have some dude training right now where in maybe 10 or 20 years is going to wake up and say, okay, I'm a vegan or plant-based strongman. I've been able to uphold some of these myths or truths that have happened over the last 50 years. Jory, I see you nodding and leaning into that.
So I don't work with the strongman. I work with like NHL. I work with Olympic, Paralympic athletes. So that's sort of my scope.
Yes.
And so from not just research, but also my experience with athletes, I have seen it. It is a lot of work. It is. It's not the easiest path, for sure. But I
think, Jory, sorry to interrupt, but that's the key. Sorry to interrupt, but that's the key, isn't it? And John and you said it best, because John's all about simplicity, and you said it best too. Yes, you can succeed at it, but you're going to have to do this and do this and do this. I remember talking to AJ, and he was training a vegan athlete, and he was talking to me about having to help her fix her diet with all the incomplete things. And he just said he does a lot more work than just telling somebody to go eat some meat. And I think that's your point, isn't it, Jory? That there's just a lot more work involved, Jory?
At this point anyway, because we haven't put it out there as planned out and as simplified as we can.
Yes.
As it is out there as eat your chicken and broccoli and rice, or sweet potato, or whatever it is, right?
Yes.
So, but we do have options, and they are there. The challenge, though, which I think everyone on this call can agree with, is that when you're trying to make body composition changes, generally it's increase the protein, decrease the carbohydrate source. So you still need a certain amount of energy availability or calories. You need a certain amount, right? And so with a lot of the plant sources of protein, they're also very high carbohydrate. So you have to then, it's just, so then.
Well, that's what Johnny was talking about too, Jory. He's like, because we're talking about body composition. And I remember John said a comment to Marty a couple of weeks ago, man, you can't sniff some air and inhale carbohydrates, right? So there's carbs in many things. And if you really focus on composition, you don't want to, you want to eliminate carbohydrates for the most part. So I can appreciate that comment, Jory, for sure. Johnny?
One thing I wanted to say that I actually probably should have started off with, which in terms of what I was saying, that any nutritionist that says that blah, blah, blah. Well, basically, like I said, you can make a lot of progress, but what we're talking about, like with Eddie Hall, that's nobody's made the world stage there. But what George started off with by saying it'd be really difficult because the amount you would have to consume. Yeah. So that right there pretty much eliminates someone, at a world trying to get to a world stage that you couldn't possibly, I should say couldn't. We've never seen anyone be able to stomach enough food that's not dense fatty meats to get to that level, because, a really, really good, say, T-bone steak, there's calorically, that's a lot more than a pile of soybeans.
Yeah.
And so, the amount of food you'd have to consume, which is exactly what she said from the beginning, it would be very difficult to consume that much. So guys that are worried about getting to the world stage in strength, their minds are like, what do I have to do to get there fast? That's our mindset, period, end of story. And the idea of, okay, well, shit, I'm going to have to eat 6 times the amount of food, all these greens, that's it doesn't even enter the thought process. So to Jory's credit, she started off by saying the amount you'd have to consume would just be so much, it would be very difficult. And that's probably, I shouldn't say it's probably, it's one of the reasons for sure why we don't see, plant-based guys at the top.
Yes. Yeah.
Can I ask Jory a question real quick?
Yeah.
All right. So a lot of people, like a lot of elite athletes that are vegan, they say that most of them got their foundation, like they became elite, eating flesh, what Johnny would say, eating, chicken, steak, fish, seafood. Is that true with the athletes you work with, or have most of them been like vegan like their whole life?
Most would have had animal sources. There is a smaller population that have always been vegetarian of some sort. So if you're vegan, so that's no animal products, it can be challenging, especially with the amount of traveling. If you're lacto-ovo, then you're including, dairy products, eggs. So it's that much easier, right? If you're pescatarian, you're including fish, but not other animal sources. So it depends on the level of vegetarianism. So if we're going vegan, I don't have a ton of vegan athletes, for sure. And most do decide that they like the idea of vegetarian because it allows the plant-based as well as the animal-based, but they get to kind of select where that would be. So that maybe they're good with, eggs and cheese and fish, but they don't want to have chicken and beef.
Yep, understood.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, you're hanging out with Keith, Jory, and Jon and Marty here. Mornings in the Live with Keith and friends here. It's shortly after 9 o'clock Eastern time on the protein break. We bring Jory in Monday, Wednesday, Fridays to talk about nutrition through the lens of protein, right? And I'm really glad to have her here today. And what I liked about today's segment is that we're all offering different points of view. We're offering different ways to get to the end. We got Johnny's 8,500 years of experience of eating flesh, 5, 6, 10 pounds of meat per day. We got Jory coming in with offering some alternative points of views, and we got Marty asking some great questions about, hey, what's a traditional athlete doing today, right? So I invite you to join us here Monday, Wednesday, Friday for this protein break segment. Jory, some closing comments from you as we wrap up today's segment from you, Jory, today.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not aiming to be like on stage bodybuilder, I mean, there's probably a lot more wiggle room in terms of what you're going to do.
Yes.
So you have to, again, we always go back to its perspective. Who's your audience? What are you looking to gain?
That's it.
I think that's always important, no matter what route you choose for exercise, for nutrition, mental performance, well-being. So all of that just depends on like, where are you at in your stage of life? And not to feel like if you're doing something or not doing something that there's any shame that you're doing things wrong. It's about progress and how can you make your life, your world a little bit better. So
right. Awesome, Jory. Great insights all around.
Can I say something real quick here, brother? Yeah, I just wanted to say, we've had Jory, we've had a lot of people come on and talk about different methodologies of dieting and weight loss and nutrition. And I'm just going to say, you come on and you really, really share some really good stuff. So I want to thank you. You're really uncovering a lot of positive, understandable stuff for our audience. So I really appreciate you bringing on some really good perspectives for people, like the way that you talk about protein. Most people don't think like that, and they need to hear the stuff that you say. So thank you.
Awesome.
Hey Keith, what did I call Jory? Oh, my bad. What did I call Jory, Keith?
Oh yeah. Hey, you mean this, Marty?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the goats here in the lab, man. And Jory, we do not offer the goat label up to many in this lab here. I offered it up freely one time, and Marty gave me shit. He's like, dude, you can't just give it up freely to people. Like, all right. So
he gave the goat to somebody who did not deserve it.
Yeah, so we selectively pull it out, and Marty's got his list for me. Okay, Jory's got the goat, David Sauer's got the goat. So I'm very protective of the goat button, or else my friend Marty's gonna kick my ass. So Jory, you've got the goat here in Winnipeg button. There you go. And we're going to bring Jory back on Monday to talk protein break on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But here's the thing. Great insights all around. At the end of the day, as Jory said it best, right? It's all about finding what works for your body and your training goals. I shared my experience. I thought for the longest time I wanted to be strong. And AJ's like, okay, I'll make you strong. But I'm like, yeah, but I'm husky. He's like, oh, what you really want is you want to be aesthetically pleasing. Yes, it's about body composition, right? So you got to know your goals. You got to know your body. And if you're listening and if you got questions about protein, whether it's plant-based or animal-based, I invite you to leave comments in the section. Come back on Monday. We'll get them over to Jory and we'll keep the conversation going. But Jory, have an awesome weekend loop and we'll see you back on Monday, okay?
Thanks, you guys.
All right, Jory.
Awesome. We'll see you later. All right. No, not that one. We got this one. Hold on, Marty. We got... Yep, that's the sound. And we see the twitching happening, Marty.
Don't fuck up my song. Don't fuck up my song. I need that energy.
Marty, I have dreams about this song with Flynn. I'm like, oh my goodness, this song is coming up when I see Flynn entering the stage and I want to run. That's it. Coach Flynn with the personal brand bite to give you guys something to learn about your personal brand. Kristina, you're up, kid.
Let's get it. So if you are building on LinkedIn, build for you and fuck everyone else. When I started on LinkedIn, I was lost. I was overwhelmed. And if I could do it again, here are 4 things that I would do differently. Number 1, ignore the experts. Yes, you heard me right. Expert advice is everywhere. And really, it can feel paralyzing. If you have too many options, you make 0 decisions. So instead of obsessing over what they say, just watch what they do. That's really where the real lessons are. Number 2, build for you, fuck everything else. Not your company. You're not building for your company. Not your role. You're not building for your role. Build around you, your unique skills, expertise, and experiences. These are the things that stay with you no matter what happens. No algorithm, no layoff, no failure can actually take that away from you. Number 3, remember, people suck. I said it. Yeah, people suck. When you start taking action, you're going to remind people of their inaction, which means you're going to have haters. As John says, if they're talking smack, you're on the right track. It means that you're doing something right. So please just keep going. And lastly, number 4, don't buy a system. Create your own. You're going to hear a lot of people saying they've got the proven system. Everyone is trying to sell you that, but really, from my experience, the only system that works, same with fitness and with business, is the one that you actually create for yourself. So start experimenting and you'll find what works for you. So here's the truth. You can't jump the line. You can't buy a shortcut. No Notion template is going to make this easier for you. And you can't study your way all the way to the answers. So what you can do, though, is you can trust yourself, you can experiment, and you can hold yourself accountable to you, not some LinkedIn guru, including myself. Build around you, fuck everything else. Yes, it's just that simple. I have entered my no fucks era, and I promise you, if you start incorporating today's tip in the brand bite, you'll be one step closer to entering yours. You got this.
I know we went from a G rating to a PG rating when Marty and Jonny joined the show. Marty, I didn't realize we went to an extreme XXX rating when Kristina joined the show because, man,
don't lie.
We drop the F-bombs Monday to Friday here on Mornings in the Lab, and we're entering the segment of the show where we get to do this. And, yeah, we're talking Eddie Hall. We're talking the world's strongest man. We're talking the Highland.
You look like a wooden toy.
That's my new dance today. It's the wooden Stella dance by Elaine Bennis. I feel like I'm glitching. I'm stuck. There we go. All right.
That kind of dance.
Johnny, we don't have you on the horizontal, love.
Good morning. It's the morning.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Reloaded Mornings in the Lab with Keith and Friends, the only morning show to help you guys get your day started. We are restarting things here. Just a reminder, Kristina Flynn's on the show, so it's explicit. Yeah. She might drop the F-bomb every now and then, so just put kids out. She might put the kids out of the room. I'm just telling you, because she's going to drop an F-bomb as much as she... In 30 minutes, we got the brand and business thing with Keith and Kristina. She's going to fucking swear just fuck constantly. So just hang tight, put the headphones on the kids. Just telling you. This is the only morning show, gentlemen, to get your ass out of bed. If you're laying there right now, you want to get started, get up. Don't hit the snooze button. Nah, I'm not going to help you out. We got Real Deal Prime joining us this morning. Real Deal, what's shaking, brother? Woo, look at this, Johnny. 4.8% body fat during my wrestling days. Took the test. Wow. Hey, Real Deal, did you wrestle Johnny? Marty, we're going to have to bring Johnny on the show to talk wrestling one day. We're talking Strongman today. We're going to have to talk wrestling. We got Shingo leaning in and having some laughter here as well. All right. So, guys, I teased something at the beginning of the show that we would talk about here today. Jimmy, let's throw the video up that we had set up for the morning loop, the first loop of the hour. I got a video. And so this is what I like about this show is I got a partner in crime here, which is another old man like myself, Johnny. We're just a couple months apart here, born in 72, and a lot of things that happen in our world we can laugh about together, music and TV and so forth. And there's one thing that we grew up with that I'm wondering if our other two friends here, Flynn and Marty here, who are a couple of generations differently from us, will be as excited as John and I are when we learn what has happened this last week in the world. So, John, you and I grew up with Bigfoot. We grew up with Sasquatch, man.
Sasquatch, yes.
Yeah, I know, man. And I'm telling you, brother. I'm telling you, Joe. Marty, Flynn, perk your ears up. You guys, Marty, Flynn, you guys know Sasquatch?
Heard of it.
Oh my God, you guys are gonna wreck our segment here. So, are you? Come on, Flynn, you want to know about Sasquatch or Bigfoot?
I've heard of it. I don't like what is there to know about it? Just these like imaginary characters that have big feet that walk around the earth?
No, hold on. Did you say imaginary? John, somebody's wrecking my world right now. I've grown up believing in Sasquatch and Bigfoot my entire life. And are you telling me, Kristina Flynn, this morning on October, that you're wrecking my life right now?
You also believe in Santa Claus?
Oh, what? Children!
What are we? Hold on, we got our crew today for some reason is surrounded by limiting beliefs. We need to open up that mind.
I agree. That's why I put you on top here with me here, man.
I don't know how they came up with that. I don't know.
Crazy.
That's ridiculous.
We got two friends here who have limiting beliefs. I think we're going to kick them out of the show, and we are going to lean into our Sasquatch theory. But here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. They found Sasquatch. And Sasquatch is becoming a TikTok star. And I got video to prove it. And I want to show it to you guys because now I can go with the rest of my life. Thank you, Jimmy, for putting it on screen here. Now I can go and Johnny can go peacefully growing up, recognizing that we have found Sasquatch safe and sound in the forests somewhere in the Midwest. And we've got video proof too. And we've got video proof too. So let me show you guys video proof of Sasquatch. And then I want to hear Marty and Kristina's comments, John, because, you and I grew up believing in him. I know you do like I do. So I want to hear what Kristina and Marty have to say about the Sasquatch sighting spotted this week. Jimmy, let's put it up here, brother. All right, let's do this. Boom. Yeah, let's play it again. Look, watch. There he is, Sasquatch.
Make him pick his head out. There he is. There's his head.
See him?
It looks like he's taking a nap. Looks like he's laying back on a tree.
Or taking a dump or something, Johnny. But Kristina, Marty, John, especially you, my brother John, we now can live a happily living life because the world has spotted Sasquatch to confirm our truths. So I would love to get a sense of opinion from Kristina Flynn on this moment in history where we've now confirmed, nation, that Sasquatch is real. Kristina Flynn.
You're the dude that talks about and gets like emotionally charged and angry about internet fakery. This is in complete contrast to that mentality. Of just believing a video from anyone. This is not a news source. Who posted this shit?
Are you telling me that it looks like Harry from Harry and the Hendersons?
Yeah. I don't even know what that is, but yeah.
Johnny knows what that is because we have young kids. We have kids.
Harry and the Hendersons. Is that like your version of Elf?
That's it. Yes. Oh, I know Elf too. Marty, are you convinced about Sasquatch after spending time on the show with me today?
I don't even know what Sasquatch looks like. And there's a page where someone puts a suit on like that and they just do like dances and different viral stuff. And I'm pretty sure that's it. I'm pretty sure that's it.
It's good. At least I got some friends in the comments here. Fit presenter Mike McQuillan agrees with me that yes, Mike, he's wearing a watch. Yes. And then Shinku's like, he's real. Yes, he's real. And we got Real Deal. We have so many planets. It's true. I agree with you, Real Deal. That dude is real, sitting there having a dump against the tree. And that's exactly.
Well, can I talk some ish real quick?
Yes.
This is why my kid shows that maybe me and Kristina a little older than me, so Kristina might know what I'm talking about. But what I grew up on, the kids still watch. What y'all grew up on, the kids don't watch that shit anymore. The kids still watch SpongeBob, Dora,
and that's the problem. If we brought Popeye back into the equation, kids would still be eating their spinach.
Nah. Let me tell you, Johnny. My kids will not watch any of the Disney movies I grew up with because it's too fucking boring. It's like our version of black and white. Like they won't watch anything 2D. Like this is
that's hilarious. Well, Toy Story.
Well, it's all how with a kid. It's all how you frame it. You know, it's like if a kid falls down and they scrape their hands and you overreact, they're going to overreact with you. You put that thing on and you're excited to watch it. They're like, "What's she excited about? I want to watch it too." So you got to frame this stuff for them.
I know what type of parent you were. I see it right now. Those poor girls, man. Those poor girls.
Don't think for a moment. I was programming their shit from the moment they came out. You know, that's exactly right.
I learned a lot from you, John. I appreciate it. Thank you so much,
John. I wish you had a son, man. I would love to see your son if you had one, man.
Funny enough that I always make the joke, because I was very, very, really, really, I should say, with love, but very strict with my girls, but they were girls. And I was, obviously do what I did. If I had a son, I always make the joke, the state would have taken him away from me. I would have been too hard on him.
We got some more comments coming in here. We got Real Deal, I like spinach, and Fit Presenter is like, let's discuss this over a Cobra Kai binge watch. The 80s are here forever. Yes, and Real Deal, John's a great dad. I would agree, Real Deal. I'm getting to know Johnny as well, and not only a great dad, but a spectacular human. But Johnny, one last thing before we move to the In the Gym segment. Two things happened to me in the last 24 hours. I had tears and I had awareness. And John, I'm thinking it happened to you already. Holy fucking smokes. Eminem is going to be a grandpa. Like, so the guy that I grew up with, like idolizing and like my rapper hero is now going to be a grandpa. Kristina, Marty, I'm struggling with how I'm feeling about that because I saw the video yesterday of him and his daughter, Haley, his new song. And in the video, they released in the video of her showing him the reveal of she's going to have a little baby boy. And she gave him a Detroit Lions jersey with grandpa on it. And guys, nation, and to all my fans, to everybody out there listening to the show,
Keith getting cocky. He putting all the designer on and stuff for the show.
Himself to M.
Hold on, to Keith and John's peers, our age group that are waking up this morning realizing that Eminem, Marshall Mathers, is a grandpa. Dude, I don't know how I feel about that. I'm going to take some time to reflect upon that. Johnny, when your kid came home and said you're going to be a grandpa, you're like, what?
I was like, you know what I said? I was like, this is the best thing ever, man. The first thing I thought of was, I'm creating the kick-ass grandpa club, and I'm going to be the first member. I'm going to show grandpas how to kick ass to where you can play with your grandchildren when you're 70 and 80 years old. So I saw it as, I was excited because I couldn't wait. I also saw it as a massive opportunity to lead by example.
Yeah, there you go. All right, we got Real Deal coming in with how old is his daughter? Real Deal, his daughter's 28. Haley Jade's 28. So M's going to be a grandpa. Jesus, I'm going to suspect the next album coming out will be about being grandpa rap.
Hey Johnny, can we get some content with the grandbaby on Instagram or something, man?
There you go.
Can we get something?
Here's the thing. I even with my little girls, I waited for them to be okay with it because for example, I put them on a few times in high school. And the freaking weirdos just went. I mean, they were literally. It was like they were showing me the stuff that was coming out in the DMs, and I was like, "Yeah." So I basically now, when they're older, it's they're adults, but unfortunately, people in many cases just don't have the manners that they need to be for you to share some of those. I don't care, but I don't want to bring discomfort to those that I love when they're not ready for it.
Yep, I understood.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh God.
Yeah. What the hell is that?
The voice. That's my.
He better not be walking us into the gym with that shit.
Yeah, that's not how you sound walking in the gym.
Kristina, let's get out of here. In the gym segment.
Hold on, real quick, Kristina. The first time I heard that
this segment.
The first time I heard that
segment, he does it again, Mark. What do you think?
The first time I heard that, Keith was like, "Me and Marty are walking into Kenya, man. We're in Africa right now." I'm like, "What is wrong with this guy?"
What?
That's how he introduced the sound to the show.
You're running right now. Listen, you're running.
That's terrible, man.
And then he followed up with, Kristina, the best part is then he followed up with, "Come on, play with me, Marty."
Yeah. That's almost left the
Jesus.
To live a day in Keith's brain.
Oh man!
In the gym with Jon and Marty, they're going to talk strongman training. So for the next 10 minutes, we're going to lean into how to be a strongman like Eddie Hall, but how to be a strongman like Jon Andersen. Boys, get after it. Kristina, we're back in 10.
All right, Johnny.
What?
So
fire away, brother. Yeah, I was just going to say right out of the gate, the strongman training has actually become very popular in the last 10 years. Like you're finding different strongman events incorporated into CrossFit. You're finding, at many gyms, you'll find a corner where there's some strongman events. And so I think the fitness world is starting to recognize how valuable the functional training from strongman is. And so I'm just going to say for most people, if it's something that interests you and you find some lighter pieces of equipment, just start playing with it, but be careful. You don't want to try to pick something up that's too heavy because we all started with the lighter weight, so to speak, in those awkward positions because strongman is learning to be strong in very awkward positions, but you don't just walk up to something and try to pick up something real heavy for the first time in an awkward position. So yes, it's popularized but ease into it. It's a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it more of like a functional style training? Do you perform the traditional lifts? And then that's the first question. Then the next question is, how did you transition from bodybuilding to that, or from strongman to bodybuilding? I can't remember which one you did first. Like, is there a difference?
Yeah. So basically what it comes down to is, you're going to have your squat, you're going to have your deadlift, you're going to have your pressing movements. Then some of those incorporate into the strongman events. But realistically, what you've got to do is you've got to start working with the actual implements. And it's really common. Like you'll find like a power lifter is someone who benches, deadlifts, and squats, very straightforward movements, right angles. Then you'll find those guys that are really strong and really like world-class in powerlifting, they'll come over to strongman because they have the base strength. And that they usually do very well in strongman. But here's the crazy part. They actually will get better at powerlifting because they've gotten stronger in those awkward positions, which lends itself to being a better powerlifter. So when it comes down to it, I think what people need to understand about strongman training is it's going to be really, really helpful in anything you're doing because we don't really train in awkward positions, and that's what strongman is. So when it comes to a transition, it's just like anything else. I put in the work. I had been putting in the work for, many, many years before I started using the event. So I had that base strength, but I had to learn to do all this other stuff. Yeah. And I also had to learn to, basically learn to do these events in a way that wasn't going to hurt me. And I'll be totally honest, when I was getting out of the gate, I had some early success and I tried to speed up the process. And I ended up rupturing 2 discs in my back early on in my strongman career. So I competed with 2 ruptured discs for 6 years at the international level. It was brutal, but my thought was, I'm here. I'm not gonna leave until I'm forced to, because once you get there, there's always somebody waiting to take your spot. Yeah. But that would be like me personally. That was a mistake that I made. I had spent decades training in the gym, squat, deadlift, all this kind of stuff. But then when I went obviously tried to excel too quickly in the sport of strongman, it banged me up pretty good. So that transition, just because you're a strong dude in the gym, you're still at major risk of injury if you're going to be pushing the limits with the strongman event. So that transition is something that you have to you really got to listen to the body. But I think for everybody listening, we obviously want to bring some good takeaways for everybody listening. If strongman training interests you, find there are lots of gyms now that have the equipment. And usually in that gym that has the equipment, there's part of the staff or somebody, a member, who kind of runs that section of the gym. There'll usually be a strongman day of training or two. And, ask around, find out when they're doing, who's doing it. And they'll teach you how to do it in a way that will really serve you well in terms of your, we just talked about training that was functional in life. Their strongman is extremely functional for life.
Yeah. Man, that's all good stuff. And just to maybe put it in someone else's, maybe they're not doing strongman. Maybe they want to play flag football or go, play men's league basketball. And Jon mentioned his injuries. I say be careful because, when you're just doing traditional bodybuilding, you're not working on certain movements like you would in strongman or these sports. So, if you're doing flag football or basketball, think of change of direction. Think of some, you'll be single leg, you'll need some explosive movements. So, be careful. And, even myself, before I'm trying to get back on the basketball court, but I'm making sure my IT bands are right. I'm ready to change direction. I'm ready to take strides and sprint. I don't want to just hop out there and then I end up straining a hamstring or something like that. So the transition is real. It's not just, you didn't go just straight from bodybuilding right to strongman. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. And I think if to break it down nice and simple, just remember, everybody, the gym movements are very directional. They're basically kind of forwards or forwards or backwards, side to side.
Still functional.
There's not a lot of angles. What's that?
I said it's still functional, but it's just a different type of functional training. Yes.
And so here's the thing. To really have the most function, you need to be strong in all of these angles, not just this way, not just this way. And so when you're talking about strongman training, or even like Marty's talking about flag football, or we hear Kristina talking about softball, that's being strong and explosive in all different angles. And that's function right there. So when it comes down to lifting weights is great, but if you incorporate some other, flag football, playing softball, whatever you do, strongman training, and you have some regularity, it could be once or twice a week on top of your training, it's going to serve you massively. There was a period where I was doing just gym training. And then I remember I went and played, went to the football field and just played catch with a couple of buddies, just throwing the ball, nothing competitive. Oh my God, I was so sore. I was like, holy shit, it's been too long since I've run. Yeah. Those muscles weren't used to work. I woke up the next day and my groin was tight. So I realized very quickly that, hey, you've been excelling in the gym, but you can't let this other shit go. So don't think that for a moment, if you're in the gym, great, keep going. But just remember, if you really want to gain that extra function for life, you need something in your training, your activities, where you're just moving every which direction. And that's what strongman is. That's what softball is. That's what basketball is. So incorporate some other shit in your training and it will serve you really well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, boys, I'd like to jump in here with a question for Johnny. Marty, just continue our conversation with Eddie Hall here today. We started up about 45 minutes ago around what the guy eats. Jon, let's just take a couple minutes before we bring Kristina back in here and go into community corner. You've talked about what you eat on a daily basis, and you're a big man, eat a lot of good food. What does a guy like Eddie Hall eat on a daily basis? Because something you said also struck me. And Marty, I'm going to look at you, pal. Can you imagine just living your entire life to spend maybe 8 or 10 seconds to lift something up? It's like an Olympic athlete, right? I got to go around. I'm going to become the world's strongest, fastest person. I want to go not think about the world's strongest human, right? You need to sleep. You need to eat for basically 10 seconds of your life to lift something really heavy. Jon, what's the guy eating on a daily basis, and how many hours is he sleeping on a daily basis, Johnny?
Well, sleep is extremely important. So usually, when someone's really cooking and they've totally locked on, especially when you get to the point where, you don't have a job. Eddie started off having a job, and then he started progressing to the point where he didn't have to work anymore. And that's when he was able to really kick ass, because now He's able to eat, take a nap. I mean, he probably took multiple naps. But I mean, keep in mind, there's an eating schedule, and it's not comfortable. I mean, he's eating for purpose, period. He's trying to make his food taste good, but he's looking at if this is not helping me, I'm not eating it. But he's eating massive amounts of red meat. What's that? If he's not hungry, too fucking bad. He's eating.
Yes, sir.
You know?
It's as simple as that, John. Like you just eat.
Oh, yeah. Listen, in that world, just because you don't want to do something, who gives a shit? Go tell someone who cares, because all you do is the shit you don't want to do to get to the highest level. I don't give a damn. We're talking about anything, business, sports.
Yes.
The people that make it to the top, if they live their life so I don't want to do that, they wouldn't be where they are. So that always kills.
Yeah, look at being an
entrepreneur. It always kills me with people with food. Well, I don't like that. And people, I mean, granted, I understand the average person, but if you're trying to get somewhere like really aggressively, I don't like that. Well, get ready to do a whole lot of shit you don't like. And if eating some fucking broccoli is on the top of your list, just sell out on the drain, because you're going to have to do a lot more than eat some broccoli that you don't like to do.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
So to answer the question, he's eating tons and tons of red meat, and he's eating pretty much all day long. He's never, ever will be hungry. Being hungry for that world would be like the biggest sin. Because if you're hungry, you're losing an opportunity for your body to process nutrients, to recover, and build more strength.
Wow. Jonny, I know we don't talk often about calories here on the show. How many, let's wrap it up in a number for the average person tuning in right now. How many calories would Eddie Hall crush on a daily basis, Jonny?
Well, in that world, calories is a little bit more of a helpful tool.
Okay.
Because in that world, of course, you're worried about, because keep in mind, you're eating the foods are really dense in nutrients. So that's already covered. Well, now I need to get this much of that good nutrient dense food. So It would be, it's going to be 10,000 plus calories a day. There's no question about that. And how much over that, I don't know. But you figure under 10, he's not progressing. Over 10, how much over 10? That's the world crazy. He needs to be living in. So, do the math on that. That's a shitload. It's all going to be really dense food and highly digestible. People that are going to eat Big Macs, that shit doesn't digest well. You could eat a bunch of steak, and some rice and some vegetable or whatever you're eating, and that's good food, and that'll digest quickly. You put a Big Mac in there, next time it comes to eat, you're going to be like, holy shit, I still got that thing in my stomach. Yeah, this is really hurting to get my next meal down.
Yeah. All right, we're going to wrap this up here. But I'll leave this with this comment, and I think we're going to come back to this over many shows here. But Eddie Hall is a great example of do you want to be strong or do you want to be aesthetically lean, right, Jonny? Because you probably can't be both, right? So Eddie Hall is the world's strongest man, but Jonny's not getting on stage and winning an IFBB Pro competition because they're two very completely different goals. Yep. And again, as somebody who's been to the gym nation, I'm looking at you guys like me. You go to your trainer. Hey, I want to lose weight and I want to be strong. Oh, but what is it, Keith? Do you want to lose weight or do you want to be strong? Or do you want a better composition? Do you want to be like Eddie Hall or do you want to be like Jon Andersen, lean? And that's my goal with this show is to keep teaching people that question when you go to your trainer. Because when you go to Marty and you say you want to be strong, he's making you strong. He's telling you what to eat. He's going to make you strong, but you might not have that six pack you desire. Right. So there's different goals and different goals and different process to achieve that goal. And you look no further than Eddie Hall. The world's strongest man is not the jacked lean dude with the 12 pack on his abdominals there. So what a great chat today, Jon. Great insights, brother. I appreciate you. Sharing all that insight with us. Let's go around the table and wrap it up. Jonny, I know you got a break, and Marty, you got to rock and roll here. And Tina and I are going to come up with the community corner and the brand bite. But Marty, what did you take from today's show, brother? As we wrap it up, what did you take from today's show or this week of shows, Marty?
Just from today, the dedication.
Yeah.
Jon said, who gives a crap what you feel like,
Yeah.
So just, and that you can apply that to anywhere in life, whether that's being a parent, whether that's being an athlete, whether that's being a great entrepreneur, great employee. You got to get shit done when you don't feel like it. So that was pretty much the big thing. And this week, I could talk all day about it, but this was a great week of shows, man. Definitely learned a lot, and I think I gave some good game on here as well. So
you did. Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Kristina, what did you take from today's show and from the week?
You 100% gave some good game, Marty. You always give some good game.
Yeah.
So I love what Marty was saying, and I think I want to double down on that, basically. Fuck, I just lost my train of thought. I have no idea. What I'll say is this. Let's just roll with it. I don't even remember what you said. You know what I learned? I learned that you gotta go with the flow. And sometimes your ADHD brain is gonna be like, look, there's a butterfly, and you're gonna forget what you have to say, and you're still gonna be on a live show. So you just gotta roll with it. That's what I learned.
I love that, Splinter. Good job, Coach. Johnny, what did you learn today and this week, brother?
I said there was so much, I guess, so much helpful stuff this week. It's hard to pick out one thing, but I think that when it comes down to it, I feel like we're doing a good job of helping people understand that, showing up is kind of like a really big part of the foundation. And, we've been showing up no matter what's going on in our lives. And I think leading by example is what people need. And so I think the fact that we're not only we're talking the talk and we're walking the walk, and we're bringing people on here to share really helpful stuff. We're sharing helpful stuff. So I think in general, I feel like we're doing a really good service to those that are watching. And that's what really fires me up.
Awesome, Johnny. And you know what I took from this week, guys? I took a couple things. I took something AJ said yesterday. Don't compare yourself to somebody else. Just because you think that person achieved that doesn't mean you're going to do it the same way. Right. So that really hung with me what AJ said yesterday. I love Jory's alternative points of views. I really enjoyed this week having AJ now on the show and Jory on the show, adding different points of views. Obviously Marty has had his success doing his things, and Johnny has his success doing his things, and I have, and Kristina. It's nice to have different points of view. As I've said from day one, and I said to John and Marty and Kristina when I invited them to join me on building this thing, we do not want to create a show which is an echo chamber, where we all agree on the same thing and we all look in the same direction. We all walk like a Pied Piper. No, we want to have a show of conversation, just like we started the show on Monday, where the conversation went off in a direction where we didn't like it. We brought it back. This is a safe space for you, men. This is a safe space for you, women. This is a safe space for all of you to come and join us, come join the conversation, and achieve some of those biggest goals in your life. But at this time, we're going to walk out John and Marty. They got some things to head off to today. Johnny's down in California with Terry and Mom and so forth. And Marty, I'm not sure what you're up to today, brother. But Kristina and I are going to kick around for Community Corner, get to the Creator Spotlight, and then we're going to come back with business and branding. So John and Marty, let's rock and roll. We'll see you guys a little bit later.
Yep. Sounds good.
Awesome. All right, guys, we're going to walk them out. Johnny, have a good day. Marty, you guys have a good day. All right, you guys are going to get out of there.
Isn't that the moment for the walking out
sound? We can do that. Yeah, we can absolutely do the walking out part. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Yeah, we could just walk them out of the show here. That would be, where's my button? I got to move so Kristina, I'm going to move my buttons around this weekend so they're a little more.
Where's my button?
Yeah, I'm going to move my buttons around so that we can use them a little more effectively. We're going to walk towards the Creator Spotlight. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it's the Community Corner segment, Jimmy. And we are walking towards our Creator Spotlight. So today we have, yesterday's Creator Spotlight, our guests really loved the introduction. Kristina sees this comment. It's like, hey, can you introduce me for all of my gigs? I'm like, yeah, for sure, man. I'll be like the Michael Buffer.
The real deal. He doesn't fuck around.
I'll be like the Michael Buffer of business introductions.
I don't know who that is.
Oh yeah, they got let's get ready to rumble. That guy there, you know that guy? No.
I've heard of that.
I'm running now. I'm running toward the Creator Spotlight here. All right, so this person, I'm getting tired here, Kristina. All right, so today in the LinkedIn Creator Spotlight, you hear me running?
I can see you. Unfortunately,
is the bit dead? Yeah, the bit's dead. All right, there we go. I'll stop the bit.
It was never really a bit. It didn't even make bit status.
Seth Kuhn, man, I need your help, man. Listen, that video.
You find one guy that thinks you're funny, and you always go back to Seth.
I have one fan who's Seth Kuhn who enjoys my humor.
I'm sorry, Seth.
Listen, Seth has been the guy who's been juiced up that last video. So I'm hoping, Kristina, oh my fucking God, I'm hoping that video monetizes so I can bring Seth onto the team and be my comedic writer. Yeah, that's the hope. Seth, I just told you my plans, man. So
I don't think comedy works that way.
No? Oh, I got AI though.
No.
Hey, listen, let's talk Creator Spotlight. Community Corner, the LinkedIn Creator Spotlight with Keith and Kristina Flynn here. Today, we are going to celebrate somebody who builds and manages content programs that drive growth, focusing on the language services industry. Oh, interesting, Flinner. There's the hint. She specializes in creating content strategies that align with top value buyers, increases revenue, and maximizes ROI. She also is a full funnel content. She offers full funnel content programs offering done for you content programs, including repurposing and broad distribution to ensure ongoing business growth. You know what I'm reading these, Kristina? I know the person's not watching right now, and I'm thinking about when they see it for the first time, they're like, oh my God. Yeah, exactly. This person has industry experience, known for high quality content due to deep knowledge of the language services industry. I've never known anything about the language services industry until now. This is really great, actually. So today, our creator spotlight for Mornings in the Lab on Friday, October 4th is Jimmy. Let's rock and roll, my friend. And the drum roll, please, is oh, hey, hold on. I got to get my buttons correctly, Kristina. The creator spotlight is today Lee Densmer. Lee, what a shaking surprise. Lee builds and manages B2B content marketing programs that drive growth, specializing in the language services industry. Coach Flynn, I love the fact we got Coach Flynn now. Marty, good job, brother. Coach Flynn, why are we celebrating Lee Densmer this morning? Looks like she helps businesses create content that drives revenue. What's shaking there, Tina? Why are we celebrating Lee today?
Yeah, I mean, Lee is a great example of somebody. B2C is sexy. And most entrepreneurs are like, I'm going to do B2C. I'm going to do B2C. It's so fun. You and I both know B2C is really fucking hard. Really.
Did I miss the memo on that one, Kristina?
Yeah. B2C is really, really, really hard, but doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. But there are other options. And sometimes you need to start with a B2B strategy in order to monetize yourself to go to B2C. So Lee focuses on B2B content and growth strategies, which I love. Not everyone is doing that on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a perfect platform if you want to explore B2B. I think the next thing is that she's focused on how do you use content and how do you drive revenue? And not everyone is talking about how do you actually get paid doing this? If you want to be a creator, if you want to be an entrepreneur, how do you actually use this content to not just drive top of funnel where, you're getting a lot of engagement, but you're not getting any DMs or any sales in the background? How do you actually focus on revenue through your content? And what I love about Lee is that she's had decades of her career. And she's the perfect example of she's doing this a little bit later in life. She started her own business. She's doing it online. So she's a great model of possibility, like we talked about. She brings real bullshit to her content and approach. I'm learning as I get older, again, no fucks era. Lee is bringing no fucks era. She's a subject matter expert. And she's a great example of how somebody who's decades into their career can shift focus, can take advantage of all the things that they've done, the unique skills, expertise, and experiences, and turn to platforms like LinkedIn to monetize their intelligence, to monetize their intellect and their skills. And I love that about Lee.
Lee Densmer, we are celebrating you here today on Mornings in the Lab, the creator spotlight. Hey, listen, if you're tuning in right now wondering what this is all about, we love to celebrate humans on this show. We love to celebrate who you are, what you've accomplished, and great content up on the LinkedIn platform. Slowly moving our way to Substack and the other platforms out there, but right now focusing on LinkedIn. And Lee today is somebody we're celebrating every single day at 9:30 Eastern time. We take somebody out, take the light and shine it on them. If you're listening, and you're like, hey, I've noticed that person's doing great work, or I like the impact they're having on the platform, come knock on my door, come knock on Kristina's door, come nominate them so we can celebrate them. Lee, congratulations. We enjoy celebrating you here today on the Creator Spotlight for Mornings in the Lab. There we go. Oh, yeah. All right. Kristina, we got lovely Lauren up here saying, I love you. You kill me. Yeah, I agree. Lauren, she's brought a different level of humor to the show here and a different level of G, R-ratedness, which I'm also enjoying. I thought I dropped the F-bomb every now and then, but I'm actually saying nothing compared to Flinner here.
It's a problem. It's a problem.
I'm going to remove the glasses. And we're going to move to our business and branding segment. I would go to the sit down camera, but I apparently forgot to turn it on here now. So I'm going to stay standing with this right now. But Tina, we're going to talk the importance of a compelling brand story today. And apparently did some reading. Somebody gave me some notes. 55%.
Who's that? Who gave you notes?
55% of consumers are more likely to buy a brand. Are likely to buy from a brand that tells a compelling story. That's the source of head stream. Tina, let's lean into today for business and branding, this idea of building trust through authentic storytelling. Where do you want to start?
I think for me is first, I want to debunk what storytelling is and storytelling is not, because I think there's been a lot of confusion in, let's just go with content. We'll start with that of what actually is authentic storytelling. First and foremost, I want to say what storytelling is not. Storytelling is not trauma spilling. It is not showing up and giving your audience uncharted access to every single bit of your story because they're entitled to it. Nobody is entitled to any part of your story. The second part is if you want to tell your story and you want to leave elements out of it, do it. I firmly believe I have worked with NBA All-Stars and I've worked with roof lifters. And I promise you, I can make a compelling story out of both, equally out of both. And so I want to establish that because I want to give people that insight of this is not about showing up, being your most vulnerable self at all times, sharing all the dirt, because there's a lot of energy and emotion that has to come with that if you're showing up in these spaces and doing that every day. It's a matter of first understanding your story and figuring out how to move forward with it. Give me your thoughts, Keith.
No, I'm going to float back to you, because I want to throw it this way, Kristina. But what does it all mean? So, and I'm going to throw that out there because we've been talking all week around personal story and personal brand. What does it mean, though? So, okay, so I guess what I'm asking you is, don't just throw everything out. It's not just a woe is me. This is my story. I'm only going to tell you this. I'm only going to tell you this. I'm going to package it up into a little box and share that with you. But to the entrepreneur and the small business owner right now who's talking about creating authentic stories, the roof lifter,
what even is that?
Exactly. What the hell does that mean, Kristina?
Right. So when you think about storytelling, you want to think about creating connection with your audience. In order to be able to create connection with your audience, you need to know who is your audience. Who are the people that you're trying to reach? And once you know who you're trying to reach, you're able to gather and be more empathetic, or at least you should be gathering insights as to what are their problems and what are their challenges. From there, you're able to say, great, based on what I know and what my story is, meaning my unique skills, expertise, and experiences, this is now the value that I can offer back to somebody based in real life proof. The real life proof, so the value I'm talking about is I can say, for example, with the brand bite, I could say, these are the top 4 things that you should be doing with your content to make them story driven, right? I can say that, but you and I both know I could write that with AI. No problem. In a matter of minutes. Where it becomes more compelling and where I become differentiated is say, these are the ways that I have used story in my brand, or these are the top 4 things that I have used and I have learned based on my unique skills and experiences. So to me, story is the proof points that back up the value I'm trying to offer and prove to people that I'm actually somebody that can solve their problems and challenges versus just saying a bunch of bullshit, quite frankly.
So the key is the I, is what you're saying, because the
key is the I.
Right. So we as humans have been conditioned to buy from brands, corporate brands. We all know that those brands have stories attached to them. What you're saying, I think, if what I'm hearing you correctly, Kristina, is in a world of personal brands, it's now important for that roofer to confidently tell his story so that he can find an audience that relates to his values, relates to his experiences, relates to his purpose, so that they can go, oh, I like Joe the roofer. He's kind of like me. I want to go and work with Joe. Oh, Joe's been through, maybe Joe shares that he's been through divorce. Maybe Joe shared that he started from nothing and built it into something and sold something. But what you're saying, Kristina, those little micro moments, or maybe something like myself, dropping little tidbits of my story along the way. Somebody goes, oh, so Keith's been in business before. So that's what you're saying, Kristina, right? Which is making those I moments linked to experience so that you as a potential buyer can go, oh, I'm kind of like that guy. Oh, I'm kind of like that girl. I want to learn more. Is that what you're saying, Kristina?
Yeah, I mean, people want to buy from people, and we have been conditioned to buy from corporations, but we've also learned that we can't always trust corporations, and you can't always trust anyone, period. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to establish trust, and you're trying to establish greater connection between you and your audience. We've talked about this. This is very much so not my opinion. This is based in neuroscience.
Yes.
And there's a couple elements to look at. When you talk about facts and figures, 2 areas of your brain lights up, or 2 areas of your audience's brain lights up: processing and comprehension. All they're trying to do is take the information in and go, okay, what are they actually saying? They're processing it. When I tell a story, it lights up upwards of 6 areas of your audience's brain. And the reason for that is because it leans on memory and emotion. And of course, the processing and comprehension is there, but all of a sudden they are doing something called mirroring that is actually your experience becomes their experience. So if you say divorce, even just saying I was divorced, your audience member is going, oh, interesting, I'm also divorced. When they think about their divorce, they're going, oh, he's just like me, or fuck, my parents divorced, or wow, I didn't know that about him. That's interesting. Like I'm not just taking in information and saying, what does this title mean? I'm saying, how does that apply to me? Because our brains are wired for that. That's evolutionary biology.
That's interesting, Kristina, because that's like, when I hear you say that in a third party way, because I'm the example in this situation, the divorce example. But when I'm hearing you speak to it, it's like hearing a song, isn't it? And relating to lyrics. Right. And playing that song over in your head, going, oh, I relate to that. And you lean into the song. And what you're saying is the same thing to a business person or to somebody who's looking to establish their personal brand. That's what you're saying, isn't it, Kristina?
Yeah. And let's look at this,
points, right?
Business and athletes. We talk about it. The perfect way to exemplify this example is sitting down and watching, let's say, an NBA game. You have 2 different commentators and 2 different broadcasters on. You have somebody that does the play-by-play that is talking about what is happening on the court and when, who is moving where, facts and figures.
Yes.
Then you have somebody that does color commentary that comes in with story. So not only are there 10 people on the court moving around in different position, there are now 10 people on the court who have their own life experiences that all of a sudden I'm connecting to in a different way. The NBA does this really well. They tell you the behind the scenes. In the commercial breaks, I'm getting interviews about them and what they do and their families. If they just kept it to what was on the court, they would limit the audience to only those people that know what's happening on the court. But instead, my mom can watch basketball and really enjoy it because she gets connected to whatever, a Kyle Lowry or a DeMar DeRozan, because she learns about them as humans. She cares about them. It's not just the plays.
WWE, UFC, WWE, great job telling stories with their characters, right? So I got goosebumps listening to you talk because now it's really clicking for me. Because when you said the NBA,
look at me, fucking awesome.
Yeah, but we, growing up here in Canada, here, hockey dad, hockey. Nobody could argue the NHL does a poor job telling stories when you compare it to NFL and NBA. So when I hear you say that, I'm like, right, that makes sense to me because I'm not an NBA fan, but I know the stories of a lot of players because they do a good job telling them. Same with the NFL. And
they train. So the NBA and the NFL, 2 great storytelling leagues, they are training those athletes in terms of media preparation on what to do. The NHL arguably does a horrible job training. So when we're even interviewing them, We're
Yes.
getting a robotic response.
Yes,
Like their
yes.
on-camera response is very robotic. It's very much boundaried. We get the
Yes.
same thing from almost
Yes.
every player. It's boring. So
Yes.
that's a perfect example. I love story. I do not like watching the NHL
I
because I
agree.
don't feel
Yeah.
connected to it. I
At
don't feel
all.
like, and I don't really care about the game, but I don't have to care about the game if you're telling me the stories that allow me to connect with people, but you're not doing that.
Okay, so you hear Business and Branding with Keith and Kristina here. The last segment of our show, we talk business, we talk branding. I got a contrarian side for you, Tina. All right? I guess I'm going to throw the ball at you. All right. So almost 40% of businesses fail to tell a coherent brand story. You know, what the hell is coherent? A very simple, coherent brand story, leading to customer confusion, looking around everywhere, wondering what the hell. So some would argue, Tina, that not every business needs a carefully crafted narrative. I'm just a roofer, Kristina. I don't need some brand story. What the hell is brand story thing? I don't need one, Kristina. I'm David Sowers, Royal Restrooms. I don't need a brand story. Tell me.
No, you don't need a brand story. I'm not going to force anyone to tell a story. But if you want to drive revenue and you want to connect with people on less of a transactional level and more on a relationship level, you want to develop a relationship that's long-standing and sustainable over time, my argument is, yeah, you better. Because otherwise you're going to be so focused on trying to get the next client, the next client, the next client to keep your funnel full versus your audience being really connected to you and what you offer so that they will buy anything you fucking put out there because they want to support you.
Yeah.
It's not always about the product.
Interesting, because perhaps we have to look no further, Kristina, than the NBA, the NFL, and the NHL and compare. And to Mr. Roofer, to Mr. Electrician, to Mr. or Mrs. Business owner that doesn't feel like they need a brand story, ask yourself, do you want to be like the NBA, the NHL, or the NFL, right? Because there's a very clear difference on what works and what's not working in those spaces. And almost what I'm hearing you say too is that storytelling is as much sales for the next generation.
100% sales.
Because that's what it is, right?
I don't think it is trauma spilling. That's why when everyone thinks about it, they're like, well, I'm not that interesting is what people think. Of course, you can't see yourself for the way that other people see you. And there's a ton of examples, and that's also neuroscience. But there is a compelling story there. And with story, we want to be able to do two things. We want to be able to connect with the people that we believe our story resonates with, but we also want to repel the people that I don't resonate with. So for example, in my story, I don't talk a ton about being queer, but I put it out there because I don't want to waste my time and I don't want to waste yours. If you're never going to buy from me because you don't like queer people, fucking tell me now and go to a different page. Stop wasting my time. So I end every post with, if you like this and you aren't afraid of queer people, hit me up in this way. And then I do my CTA because I want there to be no questions about my identity. And I want to get you out of my funnel if you don't belong there. So that is also a mechanism for you to repel the audience that is never going to buy from you in the first place and not waste your time.
That's awesome. Wow, that's powerful stuff, Kristina. And you know what? Maybe I'm going to bring this segment to a close by bringing up, I think, one of the greatest business cases over the last 10 years that I think will be studied around product market fit and around storytelling. I think perhaps I'm not a fan of her music for the most part because I'm not in her product market fit, but Taylor Swift is the ultimate product market fit for you're my audience, you're not my audience. If you don't like me, go somewhere else. She's the ultimate storyteller because she connects with her audience and she knows who her audience is. Her audience knows who she is. And just like you've just said, if you don't like the fact that I'm queer, go somebody else. And it's the same thing that Taylor has done with her product market fit. I think it's a great case study there. Kristina, comments on Taylor Swift's product market fit storytelling as we wrap up the segment.
A story that actually made me really respect Taylor Swift My kid, fucking 5 years old, doesn't even know who Taylor Swift is, and asked me if I was a Swiftie the other day. That's the power of brand.
Yeah.
I was like, bitch, you don't even know what a Swiftie is. You don't, like, you're 5 years old. We don't listen to her in the house. But anyways,
Did you just
that's
say
for another day.
You don't even know what she is?
Yes. Sometimes I say that about my kids.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome.
It's cute.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
cute.
of course.
I know.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm gonna get canceled for that one. For sure. Anyways, so a story though made me really respect Taylor Swift, and it was a story of the first time that she was ever on SNL, and Lorne Michaels was telling the story, and he said, we obviously open up the show with a monologue, and we in the background as creators, we come up with that monologue, and it's collaborative, but we kind of come up with it. And then the presenter or the guest for that week ends up giving the monologues. Taylor Swift showed up to the first time ever on SNL with the belief that everyone created their own monologue. And she had done her own song and her own monologue, and it killed, it crushed. And he was like, what the fuck? Like the effort that it took, and then the assumption that something was the way it was, but then not clarifying it, especially from a talent perspective, and being like, oh, I'm gonna write my own song, then I'll do a monologue because that's what people do. Then to have it crush, I was just like, unbelievable. Like that to me connects me on a different level because I've got a lot of respect then for how she operates and the talent that she brings to the table.
Yeah. You're talking business and Brian, Keith and Kristina Flynn here. Mornings in the Lab with Keith and friends, wrapping up the show here today. Our 2-hour segment is wrapping it up. And it's time to go. Weekends around us. I'm just going to remind you guys, if you are a business looking to learn how to be an athlete, you're on the right show. If you're an athlete looking to learn about business, you are on the right show. I encourage you. I'm going to remind you, and I'm going to ask you. Yeah, true story. Like the channel, subscribe to the channel, or comment, share it with your friends. Tell people you've discovered this wonderful show to help you guys get going in the mornings. We're going to be back on Monday. Tina, what do we got on Monday next week? I haven't looked at the calendar admittedly yet. We have a guest on Monday?
Shit, I haven't either. Busted.
Yeah. Hey,
yeah.
So we are building the airplane as we fly here, so you guys know that. And I know you business guys are like, yeah, I haven't thought about Monday yet, so we're just keeping it real. So we're gonna get back to it, and I got a lift to get to before we get the rest of the day going on here and around the corner here. But I'm gonna leave us with this. Yeah, there's that sound effect, Tina. Let's get out of here. Good show, kid. Did you have a good birthday yesterday?
Oh, so good. I got to interview my best friend on stage at a tech conference. I love being on stage. I love hanging with her. And then I come home and my wife had surprised me with a bunch of my friends here for dinner. Even though she's leaving to go on business in Chicago and already left this morning. Like, talk about being the luckiest person of all. But yeah, great birthday. Excited to chill with just the kiddos this weekend. It's going to be good. It's a great fucking week of shows too. So I feel really great. It was a great week of shows. Great week of shows. Great week of momentum. And we'll see you guys on Monday. Mornings in the Lab with Keith and friends. Take care, Tina. Later. Later.